So, Eric, we're going to get into this, but what do you think the Suns need to do against the Knicks today?
Woo! This music is entirely too upbeat for this team, but psychos and sickos unite for another edition of the PHNX Suns pregame show, of course, brought to you by our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you. At Gila River Resorts and Casinos, visit playatgila.com for more details. I'm Eric. That's Gerald. Noah behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. In just a couple minutes, we will be joined by a special guest, Andrew Claudio of Knicks Film School. Him and I jumped on a podcast earlier this morning for his YouTube channel, did about an hour there on the state of the Suns and previewing this game. I got him for about 15 minutes, have a very nice recorded breakdown of the New York Knicks, what's going on with our guy Mikal, OG, Cat, Jalen Brunson. So stay tuned for that. But first, Gerald, how you doing?
Doing okay. A little apprehensive about this game, especially
Why?
with the Knicks being at full strength. And even if they weren't at full strength, feeling a little bit discouraged here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and just take a look at the injury report before we get into that conversation with Andrew. KD, the only one on the Suns injury report, is out. Campaign is probable, but Jalen Brunson and Deuce McBride are available. Gerald, last time Jalen Brunson played the Suns, he scored 36. I think the time before that, he scored his career-high 50. So not good news for a struggling Suns team.
No, not at all. And they've struggled with Jalen Brunson in general. They've struggled with players in Brunson's category. You hope that Ryan Dunn spends some time on him in this one. But, you know, this is the guy that ruined Sean Marion's Ring of Honor night not that long ago when he set his career high. So it is his first game back from the ankle sprain that has caused him to miss some time. So hopefully he's a little bit rusty and that affects the Knicks' rhythm. But outside of it, this team has really struggled to stop him.
Well, we'll give more of our thoughts. We'll bring you Steven's keys to the game, our pregame picks and bets, and all of that after this conversation with Andrew Claudio from Knicks Film School. Let's dig into some pregame coverage of Suns Knicks. And to do that, I'm tapping in with Andrew Claudio of Knicks Film School. I hopped on his pregame podcast earlier today. Make sure you check out that almost hour-long conversation, but we dove into a lot more than just this game. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing that, Eric. As he just mentioned, the full-scale picture of the Phoenix Suns was something we were interested in New York, especially since it might include the New York Knicks this offseason. But I'm happy to make this a home and home.
So I'm going to ask the question that a lot of Suns fans probably have top of mind is you have one of our former baby boys, Mikal Bridges, and I know it's been an up and down year. Can you just give kind of a timeline of what this season has been like since you guys traded a lot of draft assets in order to get Mikal Bridges?
So it's good that you started at specifically the trade, because the day of the trade, yes, they gave up all of their future firsts, as well as this Milwaukee first that they have, as well as another swap. All the draft capital that they had been saving up eventually got traded from Mikal Bridges. In the moment, they still had Dante DiVincenzo. They were going all in on the Villanova Voltron. Like, they finally got the last Infinity Stone. And that was supposed to be a double down or a triple down of the identity and the culture that got built last season. As everybody knows, they then traded DiVincenzo in the Karl-Anthony Towns trade. And that whole Villanova thing, I know they still had three guys, but now it was less of an identity, and they had to really find a new identity on the fly. And how that's related to Mikal Bridges is he went from potentially being like we have this thing called Wingstop that we named in the offseason. That was going to be him and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart. And with Josh Hart just not being as good defensively this year, with Mikal being paired a lot in the Karl Anthony Towns pick and roll this year, he hasn't been the best point of attack defender either. I don't know if that's just him being a little bit older than he was in Phoenix, but when we dove into the film and saw he wasn't really used primarily as the point of attack in Phoenix or even in Brooklyn, he was more what Anunoby was as a roamer, as a wing. And he unfortunately this year has not been as good defensively as we thought, or at least the shutdown defender that you need him to be when you have Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on the floor, especially at the point of attack. Then there's his offense, where there are some games where you're thinking he deserves 15 to 20 shots a game and more responsibility, and you're wondering if it's a coaching thing. Then there are games, especially this last month without Jalen Brunson, where he's just not aggressive enough. And we needed you to take 15 shots tonight. You took 6, and he's not getting to the line as much. He doesn't really take shots at the rim. He gets to the mid range and has this nice little fadeaway. So all of that, I hope, is a detailed enough answer to say it's a mixed bag of results to this year. We're hoping the playoffs present something a little more consistent, but yeah, it's been a very hot and cold first season in the New York that a lot of people care about here in the Big Apple.
Yeah, and you also have another former Suns player there in campaign. Has he also become a fan favorite for you guys like he did out here?
Easily. And the fun thing is that it's very much like part of the campaign identity. And look, before the season, when he got signed, he was the 11th man, the 10th man, potentially. And then obviously the DiVincenzo trade, the Mr. Robinson injury. I say the DiVincenzo trade. They traded Julius Randle in that as well. But the fact that campaign suddenly became their 8th man, and he's been the perfect backup to Jalen Brunson. He goes through his shooting slumps, I guess, throughout the year. But he's been exactly what you could have asked for a guy on that level, literally the mid-level, and that type of contract, and to just at times be a bit of a heat check. He knows his role, come in, get his shots up. He's been his better defender than I think people have given him credit for. When Jalen Brunson went down, Deuce McBride stepped in as the starting point guard. Then Deuce McBride went down, and Campaign stepped in as a starting point guard, and he did a very adequate job, both on the offensive and the defensive end. So for a guy that at most is probably going to play 10, 11 minutes, he's been great. He's been good for the locker room as well from a culture standpoint, as really the veteran on this team. And yeah, like we love us some Campaign. In fact, speaking of former Suns, it's really the Champagne benched unit that we have with Landry Shamet on the team. Shamet's had a very up and down year, but his shot has really started to come around since the All-Star break. So we're at this point very happy with both of them.
Happy with Landry Shamet is not something I expected to hear from you.
Recently we are. I should say recently we are. There was a lot of downs with the Landry Shamet experience, that's for sure.
So the last time that the Suns and the Knicks played, Brunson put up 36 points. Suns had a very hard time containing him, and the Knicks won and put up 138 overall. We also gave up 34 points to Karl Anthony Towns as well. Of course, Jalen Brunson, at the point that we're recording this, expected to be back. I would like to just hear from you on his season, because he has definitely established himself as one of the top tier guards in the NBA. What type of problem specifically does he pose to a very weak Suns defense?
So specifically because the Suns play a lot of drop coverage, he's murdered drop coverage all year. And to the point where, the Knicks currently sit at the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. You look at potential matchups. Obviously, you don't want to say I'd rather play Giannis, but because the Bucks play a lot of drop coverage, he murders the Bucks when he plays them as well. A lot of his highest scoring games over the last 2 seasons have been against the Milwaukee Bucks, because they're just going to drop Brook Lopez into this and allow for Jalen to really feast in the mid range. And we've just seen it all year that when you play this Knicks offense and you're playing that type of conservative coverage, he's been a nightmare for teams like that. And look, it's not just the last time that these teams met. His first career 50-point game, I don't have to tell you this, came last season in Phoenix as well. So this is a thing that he's able to do, I guess, against the Suns, but even more so against that type of coverage. I'm curious if they go to Ryan Dunn at the point of attack. Smaller guards that are a bit more aggressive have been able to give him issues. I guess smaller wings in particular have been able to be a thorn in Jalen Brunson's side. The Dyson Daniels, the Amen Thompsons, the better point of attack defenders. We saw last year when Jalen Brunson got hurt in the playoffs that Aaron Nesmith provided some issues for him. The idea there was any hint of a Brunson stopper in that series is ludicrous. A Brunson slower downer, I guess, is the better term. And that's really how you slow him down. If you can get a switchable wing or a lengthy wing that could just be good from the point of attack, you can slow him down a little bit. But he's so good at drawing fouls. He's so good at being twitchy in the post. No matter how bad the spacing is, either he actually, I think, does better in traffic. And yeah, he was on pace to be if you care about this award, the clutch player of the year. But he's just been a monster in the final 5 minutes of close games this year as well. So as successful as the Knicks were without Brunson, which was a 9-6 record over those 15 games, I think I speak on behalf of Knicks fans. We're going to be very happy to see our captain back on the floor tonight.
Yeah, I wake up every morning, I think to myself, where's Jalen Brunson in the clutch player of the year standings?
Yeah.
So, another player that obviously has given the Suns problems and has had a longer history with the Suns, of course, dating back to his time with the Minnesota Timberwolves, is Karl-Anthony Towns. You've mentioned the Dante DiVincenzo trade, aka the Julius Randle trade, that brought Karl-Anthony Towns to New York. Big picture perspective, how are you feeling about that trade as we approach the end of your first regular season with Cat?
I think there are still questions about the ceiling of Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5. I think it's telling that Minnesota spent the first 6 years of Cat's career trying to make it work, some of it with Tom Thibodeau, and then a year into the next regime, they were like, let's go trade for another center and trade like multiple picks, and we will create this Twin Towers defense that Cat isn't your primary last line of defense, and you put him on just the biggest guy that isn't the other team's center, or maybe even is the other team's center, and you can potentially find other options for Rudy Gobert. It's just telling that the Timberwolves spent more than half a decade trying to find a way to make it work, and the way to make it work was not make him your center. I think the Knicks thought they would just try to be gangbusters on offense, and they largely have been, still top 5 in offense for the season, I believe, before Jalen Brunson went down. I think the solution is going to eventually have to be that you pair him with a center. Now, whether that's Mitchell Robinson or not, I don't think you can build a competent. I don't think you could plan long term with Mitchell Robinson. Like, I don't think you could say, "Oh, our 82 game plan is to have Mitchell Robinson be part of your future." I say that from the defensive side of things. From the offensive side of things, he's been outstanding. And when they go 5 out with the true 5 out lineup, all the lineups speak to him being unguardable. You cannot put a center on him. Teams have been putting wings on Cat and saying, if you want to, back us down in the post, fine. We'll put our center on Josh Hart, but no matter who the center is, he cooks you. So, I'm very curious to see how the Suns match up against him. I know where the Suns sit in the defensive rankings this year, and especially if they're playing drop, Cat is able to kind of feast in the short roll if you want to do that. He's been exactly what you wanted on the offensive side of the ball, and it's created a lot of good options when the Knicks are cutting well and they're moving the ball well. And Jalen Brunson Cat pick and roll has been pretty effective as well. So there's a lot of questions on the defensive end, but offensively, he's been exactly what they've asked for.
Wingstop was something you said earlier. We mentioned one of the wings, our former wing, Mikal Bridges. OG Anunoby, since Jalen Brunson has been down, has been on fire. And Josh Hart, in my opinion, is one of the most fun players to watch when he's not playing your team in the NBA with his style of play and his size. How much do Suns fans need to worry about those two on both ends of the court with Jalen Brunson coming back?
So I'm going to try and not make this a 45-minute answer because I've talked about Josh Hart a lot this year. And Josh Hart, I think, is the perfect 25-minute player. And the burst of energy that he injects into the game when he gets in, the way he helps the Knicks get out in transition is important. Being now with Russell Westbrook at this point in his career, Josh Hart is, to me, the best wing or guard rebounder in the league. He's got 9 triple-doubles this season, almost got a 10th triple-double yesterday. He finished with 9 rebounds instead of 10. Much to his dismay as well. He's just not the most consistent shooter, and more specifically, not the most willing shooter. So by default, when he's going through these stretches where he refuses to shoot threes, teams just leave him open, and it's almost like he turns himself into a non-shooter. They've done some good things to counter it, whether it's putting him in the dunker spot or bringing him into actions in the pick and roll. Unfortunately, that then just eliminates Karl-Anthony Towns or OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges from the equation, which leads to just a lot of Josh Hart. I say he's a perfect 25-minute player because he's averaging close to 40 a game, and there's that additional Josh Hartness of it all that I think a lot of Knicks fans wish you saw more true 5-out lineups with the roster constructed the way it is. Defensively, he's been up and down as well because I think he hunts for rebounds a little bit too much. So rather than closing out, he knows because there's no other rebounder besides Cat down low, I'm going to crash the boards. It's a weird thing. You might see this tonight. There are moments where because Josh is crashing the boards, he and Cat will collide going for rebounds, and it leads to the other team getting the ball because it's that whole thing in pickup where you're yelling same team, and that's happened a lot with them. OG Anunoby's been exactly what you've wanted. He's been a outstanding defensive demon for them this year. I think he should make first team all defense. He'll start games not on the other team's best player, and usually Tibbs will feel it out, and then it's almost like an activated okay, now OG, go guard him, and then the other team's guy gets shut down. There was this game against the Heat maybe a month or so ago where Tyler Hero cooked him in the first half, had like 28 points at the half, and then Tibbs put OG on Tyler Hero in the second half, and I think Hero shot like 3 of 14 the rest of the game, and like had a bunch of turnovers, and Anunoby had his best game, and it's just been so many of those nights throughout the season. So I'd assume that Mikal Bridges starts on Devin Booker, but then it'll become OG if Booker starts to give him trouble. And offensively, you mentioned without Jalen Brunson, he's really started to find his groove because he's been more advantageous and opportunistic with driving lanes. And I think he just like kind of discovered over the last month without Jalen Brunson and a need for more offense that, I'm like built like a tank. I can absorb contact. I can get to the line. Like the other night, he shot 13 free throws, a career high. And he's averaged 28 a game over his last 11. We're interested in New York to see how much of that is sustainable, especially with a high usage guy like Jalen Brunson being inserted back in. But yeah, I have no complaints about OG Anunoby, and I'm very curious to see if his ability to dominate on both ends of the floor translates as things continue with their captain back in the fold.
Well, I don't think you're getting any better Knicks breakdown than from Andrew over at Knicks Film School. I'm sure we'll talk to you some point this summer because I'm sure Kevin Durant and New York are going to get linked somehow. Can you let the people know where they can find you?
You can find me on all socials at @AndrewJClaudio_, but please check out Knicks Film School at Nick Film SKOOL because we're cool like that on all socials. You can also find us on YouTube by just searching Knicks Film School, and as well as wherever podcasts are available. Eric, thank you so much for doing this home and home. It was good to talk to you.
Likewise. Appreciate you. Good conversation with Andrew over at Knicks Film School. Already in the chat as well. There was something that he said that you wanted to comment on.
Honestly, it was all of it. I just keep walking away from this like this is a terrible matchup for the Suns. Like he was talking about how when the Knicks go 5 out with Karl Anthony Towns, it's difficult to guard. We've seen Nick Richards and the Suns struggle with 5 out opponents that can do that and spread them out from the 3-point line, especially because Bud goes to Oso too little and too late in those circumstances. He talked about how Jalen Brunson has killed drop coverage all season, and as we know, unless Oso Iguodaro's on the floor, that's pretty much what Mike Budenholzer and the Suns are doing. And then they have a lot of wings to throw at Devin Booker between Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, even Josh Hart in a pinch. So this is just a brutal matchup for the Suns, even when they are whole and have a Kevin Durant to factor into the equation.
Yeah, Mark in the chat says we've seen the Suns struggle against any type of team, let alone.
I mean, that's also fair.
They match up poorly against, but there is some ways that they can win this game. Let's go ahead and check out what Steven's keys are for a Suns victory over the Knicks here on Sunday afternoon / night, whatever you want to call it. It's in that weird in between time for us. Gerald, 3 keys.
Yeah, key number 1: defend a scheme against Karl Anthony Towns with potentially cross-matching. This is something that Andrew brought up as well. Opponents will try to stick wings on Karl Anthony Towns and try to hide their center somewhere else, maybe on a Josh Hart, a less willing 3-point shooter. I hope the Suns dabble with that, but we will see. I'm not too optimistic on that. Key number 2, bench production and impact. This is probably a big one. The Knicks do tend to run their starters into the ground, so when you have your bench guys out there, they have to have an impact, especially in these games where Kevin Durant is sidelined. And key number 3, continue to diversify Booker's usage balance. That makes sense. We've talked a lot about the playmaking and the scoring. The Knicks, again, have a lot of wings to throw at Book, so they're going to have to be creative in setting him up for easy scoring opportunities, letting him lay the foundation with his scoring, and then build the playmaking off of that for everyone else.
Yeah, lest we forget the last time that Devin Booker played the Knicks in MSG, he hit that fadeaway game winner from the wing. Hopefully the Suns can get a win, or at least Book can have another good performance. He's been in a groove as of late. Thanks to all of you for checking in here on a Sunday afternoon / night. Hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. If you're new around here, remember we will be doing a post-game show just a couple of minutes after the final buzzer. But what do we think will happen tonight? It's time for our score predictions. Espo being Espo says Knicks by 93.
93.
This guy.
And I'm trying to think of the significance there. Am I missing something?
I mean,
there's got to be some
did the Bulls
inside
beat
joke.
The Knicks in 93?
I mean, the Suns lost in the finals in 93, but
not
it wasn't
to
to
the
the Knicks. So I don't know. We'll have to follow up with them. I got Knicks by 12 in this one. That again might be generous, just like last game.
Yeah, I've got Knicks by 10. Also feel like it could be higher. Steven going Knicks by 9. Maria asked, though, why is Colin not starting? Gerald, almost the same starting lineup as last time.
I wish I could tell you, Maria. Like we've talked about this. We feel like at this point in the season, with your margin for error so slim, kind of throwing Bradley Beal back out there, especially with the way he played in his first game back, it's kind of rough. Colin's been playing well. I hope he doesn't get benched for Tyus, kind of like we saw as the game wore on. Last time around, he was the first guard in, but Tyus wound up getting a lot more minutes. So I wish I had a better answer for you.
Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn, Royce O'Neal, Nick Richards. It's going to be a tough uphill battle for the Suns. What to our friends over at Bet365 think the line is going to be for tonight? They have the Suns at +9 on the spread, +320 on the money line. That makes sense. -9 on the spread, -400 on the money line for the Knicks, and that's what Bet365 thinks. But what do we think about our bets? That's right, our pregame picks presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app, use code PHNX365 when you sign up, and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. We'll start with Espo since he is the least confident in the Suns today. He's going Devin Booker 45 plus points, Ryan Dunn 10 plus points, and Oso Iguodaro 10 plus points at a +9,500.
Okay.
What's more likely, Ryan Dunn 10 plus points or Devin Booker 45 plus points?
Probably Ryan Dunn 10+ points, but we need all of those things today, honestly.
Max says, I'm going to bet Beal over 0.5 point. Wish me luck. Then
look, he's about to more than double his output from last game. Okay.
Maybe. He might get a field goal.
Just a bucket.
Let's take a look at Steven's bet as well. Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
Both teams to score 110 plus points. Devin Booker over 28.5 plus points. Devin Booker over 2 3-pointers made. Karl Anthony Towns over 1 3-pointer made. OG Anunoby over 2 3-pointers made. OG Anunoby over 24.5 points. Josh Hart under 12.5 points. And Ryan Dunn over 2.5 points in the first quarter, all at a plus 3,300.
Okay. I don't hate most of this.
That's how they always go with Steve.
But all it takes is one.
And that's usually how it goes.
I feel like it might be the Devin Booker 3-pointers made.
I feel like it might be the Ryan Dunn first quarter points. It's been a rough stretch for my guy.
Yeah.
What about me? Not a rough stretch for me. I actually hit a bet semi recently.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 3-leg parlay. This one's a big one. Devin Booker over 35 points. Karl Anthony Towns over 30 points. Jalen Brunson over 30 points. Plus 8,450.
That's not bad. I feel like, Book's been on a tear recently. He scored over 35 in the last 2 games. Cat is a matchup nightmare for the Suns, and so is Jalen Brunson. So I don't hate that by any means.
No, I felt good about it, but I feel like Brunson and Cat might not play the amount of minutes that Tibbs would usually play them, considering they might be blowing the Suns out. Yeah, it might get completely out of hand. Is there anything else that you're kind of keeping an eye on specifically when it comes to today's matchup and maybe the Suns being able to pull off a win?
Yeah, I'm looking for minutes for Colin Gillespie and Oso Ighodaro. I hate to be at this point in the season, but I'm kind of already looking ahead to next year, and I think a lot of people that are watching the Suns right now are too. So if you get a big game out of Book, the next most important thing for me watching this team right now is how are the rookies doing? How is Colin Gillespie doing? Are they doing enough to really certify themselves for next roster, carving out minutes no matter what that roster looks like? For me, it should be fairly obvious, and we don't know who the coach will be by the time next season rolls around, but I would like to see them close getting the ample amount of minutes that they have more than earned at this point.
Looking for that. Looking for Devin Booker to continue his hot scoring streak. Looking for Bradley Beal to be alive. Can we get a pulse check on the guy? Come on, man. Need something. I got some gifts lined up that I'm going to tweet if I get less than 2 points from you again, Bradley Beal. Let's read a couple super chats before we get out of here. Hit that like button. Make sure you come hang out with us for our post-game show as well. Arton with a $4.99 super chat says, if we get blown out this game, honestly, I would not know what I would do.
Hang in there, Arton. It might happen, but it's good that you're already preparing.
I would just recommend finding a way to go numb.
Just focus on the fact that this game is much earlier than normal, so you have the rest of your Sunday evening to recover and rest before the week begins.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Me too.
Got the White Lotus finale tonight.
Look at that.
Focus on that.
Look at us.
We got a $2 super chat from Maria. Thank you, Maria. I've had a terrible sports day. I need a Suns win. I'm sorry, Maria. I don't know what other sports teams you've supported that have struggled today.
South Carolina?
Maybe.
Because they got whooped.
Yeah, that might be it.
Whooped.
Yeah. We don't got to talk.
Ass.
We don't got to talk about it though,
My
Maria.
bad.
We're trying to make it
My bad.
If that's what it
My
is,
bad.
we're trying to make it better.
My bad.
Hopefully the Suns can help you on that quest.
Let's take a look at the NBA standings real quick. Of course, time for Push for the Playoffs, presented by our friends over at All Pro Shade Concepts. Right now, the Kings are playing the Cavs, but before this game ends, this is where the standings stand. The Suns 2 games out of that 10th seed, 2 games behind Sacramento, and also 2 games behind Dallas. So those 2 are tied for the 9th and 10th seed. A loss by the Kings today, who are currently down on the Cavs 45-52 with 3 minutes left in the first half, so playing them tough.
Okay.
But a loss from the Kings and a win from the Suns would put them tied for the 10th seed. And then I do not know if Dallas plays today.
I don't think so.
Dallas does not play today. So you have a chance to be tied for the 10th seed there with a Sacramento loss. And then you would be, I believe, a half game back from Dallas with a win. So.
Wait, I think. No. Because the Suns have 42 losses, Kings only have 40. So if they...
Oh, it's 2. Sorry, yeah, they're 2 games.
So they're still 2 games back, but they could pull within
get a
1.
Full game, sorry.
They could pull within 1. And that's the key, is going into that finale the regular season game against the Kings on the road, if you are within one game of them, then you have a fighting chance.
That's true. You do just need to be within one game. Does Sacramento own the tiebreaker, or does that game determine the tiebreaker?
Ooh, I'm not sure. I would have to look into that.
Let's see here. I want to check that real quick.
Because the Kings are up in the regular season series 2-1 so far.
So then it would be depends on how much the Suns win that second game by, right?
No, I think the next tiebreaker might be. Ooh, what is the next tiebreaker?
Maybe something for us to figure out.
Yeah, we'll need to look that up.
Well, Gerald looks at his computer and looks that up. We'll tell you more about it in our post-game show. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to follow along during the game with us on socials at PHNX_Suns. We appreciate Noah behind the Mac making all the magic happen. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget, and we can all cry together in just a couple of hours.
We all silly like the mayor.